How's it going today, folks? I'm going to be comparing the 90mm Tamron 1:1 macro, and this is the DISP version, to the Tokina 100mm macro. Both these are 2.8 lenses, and they go down to 1:1. Let me show you how they look fully extended. Both of these, the front elements do extend on either one, and they're roughly the same length. This one's a tad longer with the lens hood attached. Both these are built exceptionally well. This Tokina has mostly metal in it. All the way through is very solidly constructed. Both of them are D-style lenses, so their focusing is slower than their AFS counterparts. Tamron released the VC version about 2 years ago. This is the older version. I do not know if it's a current production lens or not, but nonetheless, I'll be comparing these two and telling you which one's the best. Best for your money, and then which one's the best overall lens as well.
So the first one is going to be with this one, and all this is going to be, it's going to be at ISO 500 f8, and I'm going to go ahead and shoot. So nice clean shots, lights of green in the shots, and I'm going to go ahead and swap these lenses out. And we're going to go with the Tokina here, and the Tokina does have a lock mechanism that works fairly nicely. So if you're not using extension tubes, I recommend just keeping that on. And here we go. And use the Tokina. And I'm going to do a couple more. The next one I'm going to do is with the flash. So it's going to be controlled under a flash, and I'm going to see how it illuminates on its own. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to be using an SB600. And we're going to use a SC29 cable. And I'm going to do this first with the Tokina and then with the Tamron. I'll probably do this manually, but I might let the lens do it. But I'm going to focus on the same spot, but I'm going to set it to the base ISO, and then I'm going to set it to about 1/60th of a second, and I'm going to see how that looks.
Okay, so we're going to compare these two. The Tokina is on the left, the Tamron's on the right. Sorry if I keep messing up their names. But here we go, and we're going to compare them. I have Lightroom opened. And the one thing that you'll notice is I did slightly misfocus. So where the Tokina and the Tamron, their focal planes are a little different. The Tamron's is slightly behind the Tokina's, but I mean, it's close enough that we can still compare them. I still got something in focus, and it's really well in focus. I mean, we can, so here we're going to look at where it was in focus on the Tokina, and we can see we can make out individual cells and cell wall there. Yeah, I mean, that white is actually just the flash reflecting, so yeah, you can see little beads of light. I mean, you can see a little bit of bokeh if you look in the out of focus areas, but it's not that well defined. So, I mean, here we go. Here's where the Tamron was in focus there. Let me see if I can get it back into that area. Give me 1 second. All right. Okay, here we go. And here we pan through it. It was very, very nice, very sharp. It's definitely comparable to the Tokina, but I think the Tokina definitely beats it pretty well here. Definitely has the colors that it produces, better range. The edges are better defined. So in this case, I think the Tokina definitely wins here, even though the Tamron does not fall that far behind. Alright, so on this one we're going to compare I shot a piece of bark, and I'm going to compare the two. So on the left is going to be the Tamron, on the right is the Tokina. This is the opposite of the other one, but nonetheless it's written at the top, so I hope you guys can make it out. Use the same settings on both. Tokina is slightly lighter. I don't know why. It might be a hair of a T-stop faster, but nonetheless I didn't adjust it. These are both the raw files, and I'm going to compare them. You can see there's some fall off at the edge. That was just because the tree was round. So I mean, they're fairly close. I mean, both of them are sharp. There's reasonable detail. The Tokina definitely shows a greater variance of color. The micro contrast is definitely greater than the Tamron's. I mean, but it's good. I think the color saturation is a little bit better on the Tokina fresh out. It might be because the Tamron's a hair overexposed. If I brought it down, it might be roughly the same. And in this area, I mean, the Tokina is slightly whiter. I mean, sorry, I meant the Tamron slightly whiter. But definitely there's a greater variance in those bright greens of the Tokina, and then those darks we can definitely see much better micro contrast and variance with the Tachyna. I mean, even over here on the edge of the frame, we can see the color variance of the Tachyna is much better than the Tamron. I mean, the Tamron isn't bad, it's just it shifted towards the brighter colors a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. Honestly, some people prefer it, but nonetheless, I mean, here's another example where you have a great variance of colors. I mean, the Tamron looks a little bit more washed out. The Tachyna looks much better. Great variance of color. No issues really at all.
Wrapping this up, both are fantastic lenses. Honestly, astonished. I mean, when I got this one, I was shooting with primes for a while, but this one beat the shit out of most of my primes. Great lens optically, but I actually, when I got the Tachyna, I was surprised how good this one was. Focal range is a bit longer on DX. You'll notice it. It's on DX and FX, you'll actually notice. Nonetheless, I actually, when you get close and you actually do macro, you're not going to notice a huge difference. Focal, the minimum distance required to focus, actually for both of them, it's roughly the same. I've noticed for the Tachyna, it might be a centimeter greater. Not that huge of a difference for me. When I shoot, quality roughly the same. One thing I like about this Tamron that I don't like about this lens hood, it's so long that you actually, if you leave the lens in manual, you can't actually flip it to auto. So I wish this lens hood was just a bit shorter so I could do that. It's not a huge deal. It's not a deal breaker at all, because this is the one I'm probably going to keep. I'm probably going to sell this one off, or I might keep it. I really don't know yet. Color saturation, color rendition, better on the Tachyna. I mean, distortion, both of them have very, very little distortion. I don't mind. Bokeh is good on both of them. For the money, I honestly would go ahead and get the Tachyna. If you have $400 and you want to spend it on a macro lens, this Tachyna, probably the best value at just about $400. I mean, actually, I'd prefer this over the Micro Nikkor 2.8. If you need the weather sealing, or you need something that doesn't extend like this does, of course, you're probably going to have to go with the Micro Nikkor. But besides that, I'd go ahead and grab this. If you're into serious macro, I would go ahead and grab the 200mm micro. I think it's about $1,500 or so. Great lens. Honestly, I've shot with it once or twice. It gives you the distance you need. It has no distortion, great color rendition. It's fantastic. You might have to carry around a tripod. It is a bit heavy. The only reason I would get the Tamron is if you're on a budget. So me at first, I was on a budget. I only had about $200, and actually ended up grabbing this on Craigslist for about $120. So I got it for a steal. And honestly, if you can get this for anywhere less than $150, I would go ahead and grab it. Fantastic. But the one thing is, for Tachyna, warranty-wise, when you send it in, you have to have the slip that comes with the box that gives you the warranty. And not to mention, you have to have the receipt from an authorized dealer. So that's one thing about Tachyna's warranty you have to keep in mind. So make sure you buy it from an authorized dealer. Tamron, I've actually, since this was used, and I think this one is about 6 or 7 years old, but I mean, it's still kicking ass. Never sent it in, never had an issue with it. I beat both of these up. I actually do try to protect my lenses, but I mean, occasionally I'll be out and about, and these get tossed around, but nothing's happened to either one of them, so both are fantastic optically. And if you guys have any questions, let me know. I'm going to attach samples to every photo I took today down there, and let me know what you guys think.